All right. Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being here. I should have said this last week, man. With basketball kicking off, man. Wish them men's and women's teams best of luck. I know my family was at the Pitt game, so it was a great atmosphere in there. So men are off and rolling, and so just wanted to wish them luck, man. Pulling for them. Um, really stand by. You guys that were there after the game, I stand by kind of what I talked about in the post game Manhattan. Not pleased with how we played. Thought we had a very poor start. Probably went as bad as it could in the first quarter. A lot of self-inflicted items really. And Kansas State played well, and I mean this in a very complimentary way. They didn't do anything to lose the game, which is oftentimes in football it's not necessarily who wins, but who doesn't lose. And they didn't do anything to lose the game. Battle back 24-17, and which is a credit to our guys. We put some plays together. Finally did what we were supposed to on offense, stacked some plays together. 24-17, fourth and I think it was 9 maybe, and they rolled the dice and went for it. And we give up the explosive play, and we're not where we should be. We had a coverage call that we really should have had somebody right exactly where the ball was completed. So that's disappointing. Very few effort issues. I said that after the game, and minus the kickoff. I thought we had an effort issue on the kickoff that got returned, but other than that, I thought our mistakes really stemmed from just lack of details in our fundamentals. And those fundamentals they didn't allow us to perform our jobs. Poor situational awareness was also an issue. And we didn't make enough plays. You got to make plays. You got to catch balls. We had an opportunity for a pick six, and we dropped it. And those things are easy to forget. But if you go and you look at, you got to make game-winning plays. And we didn't make those. And so, to kind of recap, just kind of give you an idea kind of how it went. Special teams, I thought we were absolutely dominated in this area. Really, really embarrassing to me because we spent a lot of time on it. And the block punt, they did a good job. They schemed it. We were well. They executed it well. And so credit to them on that. They got us on the block punt. Kickoff return, great kick by Staley. I've talked about, we missed some kicks on that, but that wasn't the case. That was a phenomenal kick. That we couldn't have placed it any better than where that ball landed. And we missed an easy tackle at the 25. I said 30, I think, in the post game, but it was really at the 25, and it was just an error in technique. But the ball should have been down at the 25, and we didn't do it. Maybe had one effort issue on that. And then really in the first half, we had an opportunity, I think, on their first punt to block a punt, and we had too much air in between the punt shield and our guy. If we hugged it tight, like their guy did, and it's a game of inches, and the margin for error is really, really small. Their guy hugged it tight. He blocked the punt. Our guy left about a yard in between. We missed it, probably that much. And so we didn't take advantage of that, and we missed a field goal. Defensively, we played poorly. We didn't get aligned to their big sets. They got really conservative, but we played poorly, poor communication, poor tackling, had 0 takeaways. I talked about we had a chance for a pick six, we didn't make the play. Just not what our expectation is how we play defense here. Offensively, couldn't get out of our own way in the first half. We know whether it was 2 big drops we had, whether it was, not executing, not delivering the ball to the open guy. Not finishing. We couldn't get out of our own way, And the drive before half, we had to settle for a field goal. We had, we probably had 3 plays in a row there where we should have scored a touchdown, and we didn't. And so instead of going in 17-7, we go in 17-3. But just didn't make routine plays, And it's like it's not these spectacular plays that win the game. It's just routine plays. Guys open, throw it to him. Ball's thrown to you, catch it, right? You got a one-on-one block, you block him. And you can go back and watch that game, and we just don't make routine plays that we need to make. And just in an overall deal, the entire game just wasn't good enough. And they're good. Like, they're a good team. I think, what are they, 7-3 right now? But the games in our league, if you're going to win them, you better play better than that, and especially on the road. And so not pleased at all. But that one's in the past. And so we got Texas coming in, and we got 2 games left. And it's not too late to play good football. We've played good football in spots this year, but we haven't been consistent, which I promise you that doesn't piss anybody off more than me. I'm not. Our lack of consistency is extremely, extremely frustrating, and that's putting it probably at the mildest I can in a public setting. But it's never too late. And Texas coming in here. Texas is very talented. They are, and we're preparing for their best on Saturday. It's when I watch the film, I don't know what the media down there sees, but I don't see a football team that's quit. They're young. I think that if you look at them, kind of to preview them, special teams, they're extremely well coached. I think Banks does as good a job as anybody in the country. They're different. They're difficult to prepare for because, number one, they have great team speed on special teams, but secondly, they change up what they do week in and week out. I think the kicker and the punter, Dicker, he's a big time player, and y'all laugh because I'm talking about a specialist, but I'm telling you, he's as good at doing his job as there is in our league at doing their job, regardless of position. He can put the ball wherever he wants to on kickoff. He can kick it as high as he wants to, as far as he wants to. He's been really consistent on field goals, and now he's punting, and he's crushing the ball, and he can kick it any direction. And he's playing in his position as well as anybody in our league's playing their position. Jameson's been a quality returner in the kickoff and in the punt return game. Then they've done a nice job blocking punts. They've gotten a piece of 4 different punts. And so obviously we had the issue on Saturday, and so we got to get that corrected and get that corrected in a hurry. Offensively, schematically, I really respect what Coach Sarkisian does. I think he does a really good job of changing his looks up each week. You can tell it's easy for them. It's easy for the quarterback, but it's hard to defend. A lot of motions and shifts pre-snap, and just difficult to defend because they stress you. They do a really good job of stressing you and getting their best players in some key situations. So Thompson, the quarterback, he's a dual threat guy. He does a really good job of ad-libbing and making plays. He's got a strong arm. It's going to be running back by committee. It's Bijan Robinson. I think he was a stud. I hate that he got hurt. I was watching the game the other night, and it didn't look good. And then I saw where he was out. So I hate that for him because I think he's a special player. But they've got plenty of guys that can play that position. Roshan Johnson has hurt us last 2 years. Keelan Robinson's really, really fast. The Brooks kid is talented. And so they've got plenty at that position. And they want to run the ball. They're going to get those guys the ball. Worthy is playing probably as good as any freshman in the country. They do a good job getting the ball. He's fearless. He can run. He does a nice job high pointing the ball. Washington kid at wideout played well last week. They've got tight ends. They play an 11 and 12 personnel a lot. And I think their O-line's big. They got a lot of respect for the right tackle. I like how he plays. So a talented group, and they're right there 1, 2, 3 in most categories statistically in our league. And so even through this losing streak, they put up a bunch of points. And if all those games, with the exception of Iowa State, have been games that have gone down to the end. Defense, from a structural standpoint, similar to how they were last year. They're massive up front. They have 3 starting D linemen that are 300 plus. So they're bigger than us across the board up front. I think Overshine he's really gotten a lot better from last year, and he was a guy that I thought continued to get better last year. He's long, probably as long as any linebacker will play. He runs. He's playing extremely physical and fast right now, and you can tell that he can see himself getting better. They got a veteran group in the secondary. All those guys have been playing. A lot of them are fifth-year seniors. They've been playing a lot. And I think they've at times they played really well, and at times they've struggled. And I think some of it can be done. They've had multiple coordinators there and things like that. But their best has been really good, and so we've got to prepare to see their best. Kind of wrapping up, we got True Blue on Saturday, Senior Day. and then bring back, some of the Orange Bowl team, and which would be cool to see, because that's short enough time ago that our players remember those guys, and those guys, those are people they watched when they were young, and so we got something to talk to our team about and show them there. But that's something that's close enough. And on that same token, thoughts and prayers to Sam Huff. As good a player as ever played here at West Virginia, and went on to had a great NFL career and a broadcasting career. So thoughts and prayers with his family on his passing over the weekend. But back to Texas, respect them, respect their program, and really it's about us. We got to play quality football, and outcomes take care of themselves, but you got to play quality football that gives you an opportunity to win, and that's the goal for me. Play quality football, and we didn't do that on Saturday, and so we're going to get them ready to go, and with the goal of doing that on this coming Saturday in our last home game. So with that, questions?
So Neal, with an already thin team, you continue to absorb injuries.
Yep.
So where are you in terms of some of those injuries, and how do you manage linebacker, safety, all the ones where it's really, really thin now?
Yeah, it's thin. Yeah, but here's the thing, Greg. And I said this, and I don't know if I said it to you all or the team, is nobody feels sorry for us. We got a thin roster at some spots, and I really think it's not just a West Virginia problem. I think you look across the board, it's probably an issue for a lot of teams. Just the old days of building a roster and having depth at every single position and being three deep. That's what you wanted to be. You wanted to be three deep across the board at all your scholarship positions, and that's just not going to be the reality anymore. It's not, and we can gripe and complain about it, but it does no good. It's not. You're going to have, the guys that, especially at mid and skill positions, that don't get immediate results, then they're going to look elsewhere. And like I said, I don't think that's just a West Virginia issue. I think it's an issue across college football. And so what you're going to have veterans, and you're going to have really young guys. You know what I mean? And you better get your really young guys ready to play. And so, we have some depth concerns at safety and at linebacker, but we're going to line up and play. Josh Chandler will play. Deshaun Stevens will play more. Scotty Young, he finished the game playing linebacker, and I thought Scotty Young played really well in the game. He's one of the few guys that I would say, man, he played well in the game on Saturday. So he'll move down, and we'll play more we can play some dime package with him in the game. St. McLeod's going to play more to relieve Jackie Matthews at Spear. He played in the game on Saturday and did some. I like his. You talk about projections. I like how he projects, and he's shown that he's ready to play. And then we're kind of competing this week to see if Davis Mallinger or Caleb Coleman, one of those two guys, will get some reps at safety.
Either of those younger guys, are you pushing their red shirt out?
No. St. McLeod's already played enough games. The goal is to redshirt Davis and Caleb. I think I don't have my games played list, but I think they have one of them has two, one of them has one, I think. Now I got to go back and look at that. Maybe each has one. But Exery's out. He's out for the year. He had surgery and lower body, and he's out. Lance Dixon, I would say, is highly questionable for the game. I'm not ruling him out yet, but I'd say he's questionable. Anybody else in? Sean Ryan, I think he'd be questionable. He didn't finish the game. I'm cautiously optimistic that he'll play. Caden Prather at that receiver position, he's the other guy that I thought played well on Saturday. And you could see it coming, and he got some balls thrown to him, and it's the hard thing about playing wide out. A lot of things got to go right for you to get the ball, and he's really played better, and I felt like he's coming. And I think, he's another guy you talk about projecting well. I think he's going to be a big-time player, and you saw some of that on Saturday. Anybody else injury-wise?
Yeah.
Garrett, I think he practiced yesterday. It was the first day he practiced. Yep, first day he practiced, and he'll be available on Saturday unless he hits unless he gets, goes in reverse on anything. But he didn't practice at all last week.
Sort of a philosophical question, but if you get to that point where a guy is at his 4-game limit or whatever, but you're at a spot in the game where you say, man, I think if we play this guy, he could be the difference between win or lose. Is that ever a consideration to hold him out, or is it always we're going to play, we're going to try to win today?
No, I think you try to take the emotions out of it, in as far as, so you just kind of plan it. And so, like, if you were going to my desk, I've got a games played for all those guys that have a red shirt, eligible for a red shirt. I've got a games played list. And so what we do is we go through and we say, okay, hey, this guy's going to be live this weekend, and this guy's not. And if you notice on the sideline, those guys that aren't going to be live, we don't even give them a helmet. And so we kind of take the emotions out, because you don't ever want to put that kid in that situation, you know. And so that's how we handle it, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Your reaction to the Kansas game last week, just watching it, I mean, there was some unusual things that happened.
I would say credit, like, Kansas. Like, I think anytime those kind of wins happen is you got to make an extraordinary amount of plays. And Kansas made an extraordinary amount of plays. You know, whether it was at quarterback, on defense, they just made a lot of plays. You know, and sometimes you have those kind of days. You know, and I think when big upsets, you know, and I just say from a point differential, you know, a favorite. I'm not necessarily saying that's a huge upset or it's not. That's not for me to determine. But I'm saying anytime you have one of those that's a 20-plus where there's an upset, there's always a bunch of people that make plays. And then Kansas just made a bunch of plays, you know. And, you know, the tight end on the 2-point conversion, you know, the tight end when they were going the other direction rose up and made a humongous play on 3rd down. And you're talking about guys that hadn't done that, you know. I mean, it's a credit to them. You know, Lance is really good coach. You know, we don't play him till next week, but we played him in a bowl game, and he's really good coach. He's been through these rebuilds before, which I think matters. You know, so he's done it at Buffalo, so he's you could tell he's not overly frustrated. He kind of handles it, and he's had his kids ready to play, because we've seen Kansas. Is this the third? I think it's the third opponent we've played right after Kansas. You know what I mean? And so you see it, and like those guys they're playing extremely hard. They're well coached. Like I don't think I finished my thought. We played them in a bowl game, my last game at Troy, and I was really impressed that whole week. Now that was later in their tenure, and they had some NFL players, but they've been well coached. They've been in a lot of games. You can see them getting better as the year went on. But they made, I mean, if you go back and look at like 50-50 plays that they made, ton of 50-50 plays. And then defensively too, they got their hands on a lot of balls, you know. And so that's what I noticed in that game, you know. And sometimes like you have those, and it's like, well, Texas didn't play hard. Like that's not what I see. You know what I mean? Like I don't turn on the film, and trust me, that's what I was hoping to see. You know what I mean? Like I was hoping to see that. But when I turn on the film, I don't see a Texas team that's not playing hard. I see a team that's flying around. I see a team that you can tell the staff is still working extremely hard, because they got 4th and 5th year seniors that are still playing hard. You know what I mean? And on offense and defense. And Kansas just made a bunch of plays.
Is it hard to evaluate though? I mean, particularly some of the unusual things that Kansas did that kind of going against the grain against some of their things.
You know, I think a lot of stuff that, you know, going for it on 4th and 1, you know, or the 2-point conversion to win. And I think, and I don't know Lance well enough to know how he thinks, but like I listen to the announcer, right? And so it's easy for him to criticize, correct? You know, but I think as you're building a program, you try to make a point. And here's the other thing. The analytics tell you to go for it right there. Because if you get a first down on 4th and inches or 4th and 1, whatever it was, the ball game's over. You take a knee and you run out of there. You know what I mean? So, like, the analytics tell you to do that. And then the 2-point conversion, you know, he just went for it. You know, so, but outside of those, it wasn't like it was a bunch of – they didn't trick play them. They didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't like they took an inordinate amount of risk. You know, they made a bunch of plays, and credit to them.
You know, you mentioned before about the rosters, you know, the different age of football. Now, you don't have very many seniors who signed here, you know, and are here on senior day coming up. But it's been a very, very strange group for those that did. I mean,
yeah. It's hard for me to keep up. I was telling Monty walking in here, and I was like, and like I don't even know for sure who's all walking and who's not walking yet. You know, it's up to them. You know, as far as, but like, it's hard. We only really have three. Well, I guess we have four super seniors.
Changing coaching,
Mhm.
COVID, extra year,
Yeah, it's been a trying time for them. Yeah, it's been a trying time, and there's a lot of guys that didn't start their career here that are going that are seniors now too. I'll tell you, it's confusing about who's a senior and who's not. You know, I mean, it really is. I've just gone to it with guys that have no chance at eligibility and those that who have potential eligibility left. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I've been thinking about it. And so we're giving them the option if they walk. I'm not really pressing them to make decisions, like final decisions, whether they're coming back or not, just because I don't think there's any reason to put stress on them right here with 2 weeks left.
Do you have that conversation though at some
At some point we will. Yeah, at some point we will. You know, and I think it comes down to, you know, last year's senior class, several of those guys could have came back, but a lot of them didn't necessarily have NFL futures, and they were kind of tired. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it really is. I mean, everybody sees all the perks and rewards and stuff, but it's a lot of work. And a lot of those guys had already graduated. A lot of them had already had their masters, and they went about their life, you know. And but no, you have discussions, you know, whether it's, hey, we want you to come back, we really would like for you to come back, or then you have the NFL discussion, which is very similar to what you have with the junior, and you take the emotions out as a coach and you just present the information, you know, because the days of the end, like really they ask questions here, but the way the NFL process works now, and we let everybody in, right? We let them in all the time, and we have scouts almost every single practice, and they cross-check, and they have their area scouts, and they'll ask, but there's so much information now, they know that sometimes we're answering questions with our heart because they're ours. You know, like it's, you know, no different with your own kids. Like we're asking, they're asking us questions, and we're asking with our heart because they're our guys. And so, like, we have no say NFL. You know what I mean? Like, we really don't. But what we try to do is get quality information and just present it. Hey, this is what it looks like. Hey, they see you as an undrafted free agent. They see you as a draft pick. They see you, and you present it, and you know, the player and their family make the decision. But as far as, you know, I don't think senior day, I don't guess there's any rule why you can't do it twice. You know what I mean? So I don't see any reason why there's not a lot of. I wouldn't take a whole bunch of credence in who walks and who doesn't walk. You know, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
You mentioned about the difference now and not being able to build a 2 deep or 3 deep across the board.
Yep.
Is the same thing true for the number of seniors having a big senior class? And if you can't get those, which looks like it's the way of the future, how do you address that in terms of leadership, in terms of, you know, locker room?
You know, that's a good question. I think it takes a while to really establish leadership. You know, and I think that it's hard. It really is in team sports now to develop like real quality leadership. You know, and it's I don't really have a thumb on exactly why, but it is. You know, that's something that as coaches, you know, regardless of sport, you know, because coaches talk a lot because you go through the same thing, you deal with same issues, and it's whether it's in your sport or another sport, and that's just a trend. It's really it's hard to develop really selfless leadership anymore, but I think it's still important. It's still important, you know. And the roster issues, and I really hadn't thought about it as tied to leadership as far as the roster issues and I'll say this too, like we got plenty of spots, so like whether guys come back or not, it won't affect how many we can take. Okay, I think that's something I think it's important for y'all to know. We'll be able to sign whatever the max number we can sign is, which I think is 32, maybe. Yeah, 32. So we'll be able to do that regardless of what these guys make their decision on whether they're coming back or not. The roster, like what's hard on the planning piece is you used to be able to say, okay, you know, usually during your bye week you lay out and say, okay, this is what my 22 roster is going to look like. This is my 23, so you're really playing out your recruiting number. You know, hey, I'm going to finalize my 22 spots, the ones that are open here. This is all right. I want to finalize those, and let's look at the head to 23. We'll start making our 23 spots. This is exactly what we want. What's made it difficult now is you're always playing catch up, because you're always going to have. There's always, you know, when guys transfer, for the most part, you got a pretty good idea they're going to leave. All right, because they're not playing or they're malcontent. You know, you can kind of feel it. But there's always going to be one or two that you didn't really see, you know, and those are usually in critical areas. So you always got to kind of hold a couple back, you know. And I just started to know head coach discretion. We'll, hey, sign whatever number and this many, like, head coach discretion. Anybody else?
With these numbers last game, receptions, yardage, touchdowns, that's cool. But the times they threw at him, like 24 times.
Shaking now.
Worthy.
Yeah, you know.
That's say, I mean, he's good, obviously, but does that alert you at all for game planning this week?
Yeah, we have to. We have to know where he's at without question. And how many do you have? 24.
I think I read 23 or 24.
Yeah, it was in the 20s for sure. And they did a nice job. Like, they got him the ball in the speed sweeps. They do a really good job of tagging him in the run game. And so where Thompson's got an opportunity to get him the ball, and Sark, he did a really good job of moving him around, right? And they've had, and I think I'm correct here, they've had a lot of different injuries and some issues at wideout as far as numbers wise. And as a play caller, it sounds kind of weird, but sometimes it's easier to call plays when you're thinned out at the receiver position, because you can just call for one guy rather than thinking about getting multiple 3 or 4 or 5 guys the ball, which sometimes gets a little muddy. He did a really good job. He has great speed. He changes direction without slowing down, which to me is an elite talent. And he's a plus guy after the catch. And he's thin in stature, but he runs like he finishes runs, and he's a big time player. Like, he's worthy of all the accolades he's gotten thus far in his freshman year.